Are you ready to take your business to the next level? Every day there are countless books and articles that are published offering the key on how to make your business a success. It's easy to feel overwhelmed trying to keep up and run your business. That's why Deb Creer created the Business Power Hour. Keep up on the latest trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. Let the Business Power Hour do the heavy work for you.
Good morning, good morning. I am Deb Creer, and I am passionate about giving professionals the tools that they need to make themselves and their businesses as successful as possible. And we quite often get caught up in the business, the stress, the bank reports, the marketing, when what we really need to do is breathe and calm ourselves. And so I am so delighted to welcome my guest today because she's going to help us through that and talk to us about why that really is important. And so please join me in welcoming Amanda Solar to our program today. Welcome, Amanda. How are you?
Well, I'm thrilled to be here, Deb. I am a huge fan of you. You kind of embody finding joy and purpose and all the good things. And you can wrap that all into business and life because let's face it, that's what we do. We're not separate silos. We're one entity living all these lives.
Right. Well, let me tell people a little bit about you and then we'll jump into this. So Amanda Solar is the founder of SolFul Living and the host of the SolFul Connections podcast, which I was very honored to be a guest on, where she sparks authentic conversations that inspire, uplift, and deepen our connection to ourselves and to each other. She is a certified Primordial Sound Meditation teacher. I got to ask about that. And a graduate of the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. Holding a certificate in health coaching, Amanda draws on 3 decades of business leadership as a COO of a large chamber of commerce, her experience as a magazine editor and corporate scriptwriter, and her own journey of healing and self-discovery to help individuals design more intentional and meaningful lives. So again, my dear, welcome. How are you?
I am doing just fine, Deb. I will tell you, I am all the things, navigating business, navigating life.
Right.
I'll just tell you, my father's in ICU right now, and he's struggling with, he had a break in his leg, and he found out that he has liver cancer, but he's a warrior like my friend Deb, and he is just doing all the things. And I only share that because I do think it's important for us to find our light in the middle of it all. I think it's part of the conversation. So when you say, how am I? I am always finding light and I'm holding all of the things that we all kind of hold as we navigate our professional and our personal journeys.
Right. Well, you've been through a lot. I just kind of skimmed over your bio, but how did you get to where you are today? Why did you decide that this is truly your meaning in life?
Yeah, thank you for asking. I even as a kid, I was one of those kids who was always kind of searching for purpose. Like I would search for it in my books, Anne of Green Gables, or, all the Little Women, The Godfather, which I read much too early. So I was always kind of one of those seekers. And my journey led me to become a leader in a chamber of commerce, which I was always thinking about how can I infuse my work with mission and purpose and help people to find their light, essentially. And then I was hit with one of many, but maybe the most dramatic life crises. My middle daughter, caught a cold and she stopped breathing.
Oh, no.
And when she did stop breathing, we ended up in Children's Hospital for months and months, and they uncovered a host of congenital issues that were life-threatening, very, very life-threatening. And when I came out of that experience, which we navigated as you do, firsthand, you navigate these things throughout life. But when I had a chance to let the dust settle, I kind of went, what was that? And what is happening? And thought, well, I need to find meaning in this. And I learned so many lessons, and I thought, geez, how can I share this? And so I continued my work, but ultimately that led me to where I am now, which is really blending those passions of I love business. I love entrepreneurs. I love people following their passion. And I also think we are all meant to find our light, our inner worth, our purpose, which I know that gets so tossed around now, but there's a reason it gets tossed around because it's part of living a really fulfilled life. So that's kind of the version of how I got to where I am, where I make it my mission and my work to help people find the joy and the light in their life and in their careers.
Right. And being on your podcast, being in your presence is obviously very joyful. I absolutely love it. But
back at you.
Yay. Yeah, mutual admiration society here. As you were talking, one of the things I thought was, why is it we somehow have in our brains that business, and especially being a leader, has to be hard, we have to be hard, we have to be tough. We as women, a lot of times we do bring empathy and things like that. And so many times that's looked down on. And now that we have male leaders who are really starting to bring empathy and things like that, we're seeing them be successful. But why is it we think it's either or and not both?
I think the reason that we think it's either or, my instinctive answer is because the world has been led by men.
Right.
Sorry,
and you have to be tough. They were the hunters. They were the gatherers.
That's right. And so, and emotional depth has not always been encouraged among men in society. And so I think that that's probably where we got our quote rules, our rules about business and even sometimes our rules about life. And I think that it hasn't really served us fully. I mean, it's served to a certain degree, but I think that the blending of maybe what could be called like male attributes and female attributes, but are ultimately human attributes, can lead us to a more well-designed societal structure.
Right.
So sometimes I say to my girls, I have 3 daughters, and I say, we made this all up, guys. We made 7 days a week, 24 hours in a day, and the 40-hour work week, and stopping for lunch at this time and going to school at this time. We made it all
right. It's not written in stone.
No. So I think we can try, if we try to look at everything with fresher eyes, we may find a little pathway to a more aligned life individually and maybe even collectively.
Right. How many people are scared of doing that because they might discover, I've been on the wrong path. Now what the heck do I do?
Girl, I hear you. Because, I've done that. I've been on the path that was 100% right. And then I felt that kind of, well, this path doesn't seem right for me. But also, yikes, I needed to feel right. This is what's supporting my life that I'm living. And what do I do? And I would say, if anybody is listening and they're feeling that, they're feeling like a tug towards something, you can keep your life. You don't have to blow it all up to follow a tug. And that's what I did. I just thought, well, let's start here. Let me design something. Let me build something. Just follow it. Even if it's messy and it's unclear, follow it. You can do a lot. You can incorporate a lot into your life. And even if you're just simply infusing it with a little fun or a little meaning, That's okay. That's the start.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, you mentioned, that we have lifestyles that we need to maintain, and something as simple really as sometimes keeping our insurance, things like that. And so
Yes.
we want to keep that job, but, what about, you can volunteer, maybe, there are other things you can do. And I think so many people feel stuck. And I know that's one of the things that you talk a lot about is
Yeah.
stuck,
Yeah.
and we just don't know what to do. And so it's easier to stay stuck. But the problem is, how many times is that quicksand and we're just going to go under?
100%. And, being stuck can sometimes almost be a more negative feeling than being horrified.
Right. But it's
in a
also
weird way.
comforting because we know what to
Yeah.
expect.
You know what to expect.
Mhm.
But then I think about this, sometimes I think, okay, so then you wake up, you eat your breakfast, you go to work, you come home, you eat your dinner, you do a few chores, you relax, you watch maybe a little Netflix, you go to bed, you wake up, and you do it again.
Oh, boy.
Right? Doesn't that sound fun? I mean, we only get this one life. Or at least in this body, we only get this one life, however you look at it. So maybe take a minute to do something that either excites you, intrigues you, interests you. I kind of have a practice where on Mondays, I do something that moves me closer to my dream.
Oh.
And it can be, something that's hard. It can be something that's difficult, but I just try to get closer to like what my dream is. How do you know what your dream is? You've got to pause. We don't pause a lot. You've got to pause and you've got to ask yourself. But I kind of try to every Monday just get a little bit closer. Just do one little thing, check it off, and then go back and then eat your breakfast, go to work, come home, eat your dinner, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. And it's interesting that you mentioned pause. I was on a mastermind group that I am part of last week, or last night, and we were talking about our plans for the next 7-ish weeks, which puts us to basically the end of June. And so, I looked through my calendar and I thought, ugh. And now it was not as in I didn't want to do it. It was
right.
When I went, they said, Deb, what do you think? I said, I need to clone myself. Right. And somehow we also, seem to think that busy is being, is a good thing. We don't pause.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. And pausing also is kind of boring when you first think about it. We don't like that. Our minds love engagement. We love
raising my hand.
Watch 100%. That's why we watch Netflix or whatever, or we scroll. We're looking. Our minds are desperate to hang on to something and get engaged. And pausing requires maybe some silence, some stillness, and oh my gosh, we're not designed for that, But if you can force yourself to do it, if you're not doing it now, and if you can maybe start with 30 seconds and then a minute, incrementalism, in my opinion, is the name of the game.
Right.
And then you can kind of see, what in my calendar do I not really want to do? What is not fulfilling me? What is not moving me closer to my purpose? What do I not even have to do to keep the lights
5 minutes before, if I'm not going, ooh, ooh.
That is a great way of looking at it. And yeah, so that pause can really lead to a clearer identification of what is important, what is not important. And I just reminded myself of for those of you like me who was into Stephen Covey and the 7 Habits, that he did kind of these quadrants, what's important and urgent, what's urgent, not important. And I mean, just start kind of looking. And I'm a productivity junkie. I get it. I love a list. I love checking off things, but what's important? What moves you towards your goals? What are you just maybe doing to please somebody else that isn't important?
Right.
and isn't serving you.
Right. And it's interesting. I am working as a mentor, and she's mentoring me as much as I'm mentoring her with a young lady who she's finished this semester. She's now a sophomore at the University of Colorado. And we were talking yesterday about the word no, and that the word no can be and should be an entire sentence. And I said, my problem is I say no, but
Yeah.
I'll do this instead. Or here's, and I think a big part of that is, first of all, we don't want to disappoint people. And, and so we don't want to just say no, and really, what should we care if they're disappointed, right? But then there's this thing, and this goes along with my personality, that, well, but I'm the only one who can do it the right way. So I don't want to say no, even when I've got the calendar where I need to clone myself. So how do we get over that and know that it's critical that we work with others and we build our communities?
When I answer this, it feels always harsh, but I'm going to, because I think our inability to say no is linked really closely to our ego.
Right.
And identity.
Like I said, nobody else can do it the best way that I can do it.
And sometimes our ego is a friend who is looking out for us. And our friend says, hey, we want people to see you like this. We want to be seen as the woman who can
like
do
the
everything.
accolades.
Well, 100%. Or I want to be the woman that doesn't disappoint people. I grew up, I went through 12 years of Catholic school. I want to be of service. I still want to be the girl who people go, she's so nice.
Amanda will do it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And she'll do it with a smile. And part of it is accepting, what people might not think. They might think you're messy. They might think you don't keep a commitment. They might think that you are not service oriented. They might think you have no control over what they think.
Right.
They
might think the sky is green.
That's it. Right? Who you are is not dependent upon what they think. And if you're pleasing everybody, you're probably not pleasing yourself.
Right. Right.
And ultimately at the end of the day, don't we want to live a life where we feel fulfilled?
Right.
So it's a big ask for people to surrender what others think of them. And I say this knowing people will say, I don't care what other people think. We never even want to be the person who cares.
I'm still going to do it. But I don't care what other people think.
Right. Exactly. And so much. And that's why, again, I return to the pause. I return to meditation where you say, wait, who am I? I have to know who I am when I enter the world, because people are going to make up their minds about me. They just are. That's what we do, we human beings. So to try to run around and influence how people view you is kind of like catching dust.
Right.
And by the way, if you're in my house right now, good luck to you.
There's dust. I have cat fur. We could knit another animal out of the fur balls that are,
Same.
Right.
So yeah.
But then what we get caught up in is, well, but they'll think I'm selfish if I'm taking care of myself. Right. And I like to tell people, you know what? It's the airplane rule. You have to put your mask on first before you can help anybody else. And I think that's really hard for women. But let's be honest, it's hard for men too, because they want to survive. And so, we aren't ultimately good for anybody if we're letting ourselves get, completely depleted.
Right. And who among us has not met the person who's like resentful? They're doing the things, but you can feel the resentment oozing, and they're kind of like, wait, you parked there? I have to be here because I'm going to drop off a casserole for so-and-so. And if you're running around and you're feeling like nobody appreciates you and you're kind of feeling resentful, that is actually a little message to kind of step back. Right. Because if you're feeling resentful, I would ask the question, why are you doing it? And really invite the honest answer. You don't have to be truthful with everyone. Just be truthful with yourself. Take a minute and why am I doing this?
Right. And obviously we have conflicting reasons too. Well, it's the right thing to do, and they said they always love my casserole. And and I'm
No
gonna
one
have
has
to make it
ever
at
said
midnight.
that about anything I've made, Deb, by the way.
I love it. My family used to make me bring things at potlucks like plates and cups.
Yes, that
Yeah.
same.
And I'd look at him like, really, you think I can't cook? But yeah, I mean, we get so caught up in what everybody else thinks. And then it's that hamster wheel. We're just perpetually chasing it and we're not pausing. I want to keep coming back to that.
I agree. I agree. I mean, self-awareness is a gift, and it's also a tricky thing because we have to be strong enough to know that we are not perfect. We're not. And so you kind of have to look, where am I vulnerable? Where am I maybe I don't know. Looking at our vulnerabilities and our weaknesses is not something we are comfortable with.
Right.
How are you? Fine. How are you? Also fine. It's what we do. But step back, even if you do it once a week and pause. Or if somebody asks you to do something, I'll get back to you. You don't have to answer right away.
And it's okay to say, I'll do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
And now if you've said tomorrow, you probably should, try and do it tomorrow, but, or maybe you say, I'll do it later. And that's okay too, and now, I do have a little bit of the added benefit that people know that my, reserves are pretty low. And sometimes, I have to nap frequently and all of those things. And so they don't overly pressure me. And, oh gosh, maybe I take advantage of that every once in a while. But we shouldn't have to do that. I mean, and obviously there are things that this needs done now, and so, whether we're asking somebody else to do it or somebody is asking us that, just explain why it has to be done now.
Yeah.
And usually it doesn't have to be done now. I mean, it's like, well, you mentioned the list. It's the next on my list. Therefore it must be done now.
Right.
My list grows dust, back to the dusts, right? And now, I have a big to-do list, and I look at it, I think, I don't even know why some of these things are on there. I mean, they've been on there that long.
Sometimes my things are on there just so that I can actually check them off, because I love a good check off.
Right.
Another thing I was thinking about is look at the people or the things that you find hardest to say no to. There might be your opportunity for growth. And it might be their opportunity for growth. Listen, some of my hardest people are my kids.
Right.
I want to say yes to them the most. And that might not be even helpful for them.
For them, right.
So sometimes you can open a door to growth, not only for yourself, but for other people.
Right. Yeah, it is so important that you advocate for yourself. I was, I posted on Facebook. It would have been last week, I guess now, but one of my doctors, because I have a plethora, right, wanted me to go see a new specialist, and it was in a practice where I'd already seen somebody that I did not like. Just did not like him.
Yes.
I mean, there was nothing that was going to change on that. He and I just, I'm sure he's a very good doctor. It was just nope.
Yep.
So who does she refer me to? And so, when his office called, they said, "Oh yeah, you've seen him before." And I said, "Ugh." I said, "No offense, but no, I will not see him again." And she started laughing. And I said, "Not the first time you've heard that." And she didn't say anything because, of course, she knew better than that.
Right.
But yeah, I said, it's, we just didn't hit it off. And, and I don't care what it is, stand up for ourselves. You don't like that line at the grocery store because, okay, go to a different line, go to a different doctor, volunteer with a different organization, all of these things. You don't have to do it. It is always a choice.
And don't you think, Deb, that because of what you've been faced with in life, you've learned
Mm-hmm.
how important
Mm-hmm. Oh,
self-advocacy
yeah.
and you
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then you can
Mm-hmm.
take that learning lesson and then you can apply it in other
Right.
aspects of your
Yeah.
life.
Yeah. You know, and it's funny because people have such perceptions, and I'm not going to say good, bad. They just have
Yeah.
perceptions, right? And mainly from how we were brought up and things like that. Where, you know, like I was telling somebody, yeah, a while ago that I had fired a doctor, and she was having issues with hers. And I said, so, and now she lives in a fairly remote area, so it could be the only option. So then you're kind of stuck. But I said, so don't go to him. Well, I have to. And so gently,
Yeah.
right? Not why. I said, is there someone else in the practice or something, trying to, and she said, well, that's who I've been assigned to. And I said, ultimately, you understand he's your employee. And even though the insurance is paying and all that stuff, I said, he works for you. You don't work for him. And I mean, we can carry that over into work and things like that too. Yes, you might work for X person, but do you have to put up with their crap? Sometimes, I mean, back to the original discussion, sometimes you're kind of stuck having to be there. But, there are certainly many times where you can say, no.
Yeah.
And maybe it comes down to I'm just not going to do it at all. I mean, I think we probably all had bosses like that, right? I had one that threw chairs and swore a lot.
No.
Oh, and now this was before we had HR departments. And I mean, he was just he was a bully, but you could tell it was a self-esteem thing, very large, overweight man and all these things. And he was just mean and nasty. And I told him, I said, no, I'm giving you my 2 weeks notice. And he looked at me. Now, this is really going to show you how long ago this was. And he said, get out now and I'm not paying you anything I owe you. And I looked at him and I said, well, that you can do. However, I have changed the main password on the computer. You can't get in.
I love you.
Now, was that ethical? No. But
I mean,
yeah, but he backed down and I actually still worked there, another 2 weeks. I mean, it wasn't get out now, but I think, what happened was I could see the shift in him where he thought, I might grudgingly have to respect her.
Yeah.
And, and I think that's it too, is, you can't force anybody to respect you or treat you well, but how you kind of behave. And now a lot of times, let's be honest, we really do need to do the opposite. We need to be nice. We need to be polite, but sometimes you've got to get that backbone of steel.
That's right. And sometimes you can erect a firm boundary nicely, so it's what you were doing was you had respect for yourself. So like you said, you can't force anyone to respect you, but you can respect yourself. So you can exist in a world where, respect is not off the charts. Unfortunately, we have that in business and it isn't something that we should feel proud of as a society, but we have it. So sometimes we have to work within that system and structure, but there is something about working on your own self-love, your own self-worth, your own self-respect that enables you to erect some boundaries and do so in a way that, can be construed as kind. But I love that you did that. And see, that's that fiery red hair of yours.
Yeah, well, and everybody was like, oh, right? But yeah, we had a computer and dumb terminals, right? And so I could do that. But yeah, it really is about, how are you going to treat yourself? And setting boundaries. I mean, more than once I have talked to especially new business owners and small business owners and my clients to say, here are my office hours. And, it was so funny. When I moved here to Atlanta from Denver, I had one of my major clients was in California. So before it had been a 1 hour difference, and now it was 3. And the 1 hour was not a big deal. 3 was a big deal. And they, got a little testy over something because I hadn't responded at 7:30 at night. Now, let's be honest, they just hadn't figured it out. I mean, it was, and
Yes.
and so I, the way to do it in a lot of cases is a little humor, right? And I said, tell you what, I won't respond at 7:30 p.m. if you don't respond at 4:30 a.m. And they got it. Right?
That's right.
Now, obviously, there are times where you have to adjust. And part of it is, where your clients are. I was talking with a young man just the other day whose business is in the Philippines. And he said they work overnight. They have to. And he said, but, that's, and I mean, it's, so you learn to adapt as to what will work. But, but at the same point, you could say, nope, I'm not going to work overnight. That's not me. I've got small kids. I've got whatever.
Right. And, you can, not everyone is your client.
Mhm.
We hate that, we entrepreneurs.
I know. What do you mean they're not going to pay me money?
Everybody, you sometimes ask people, who's your client?
Mhm.
Everybody.
Yeah,
No,
no.
it's not
Mhm.
true.
Mhm.
And so you kind of have to, even as an entrepreneur or as a professional, understand that here's my client,
Mhm.
and of course that stretches.
Mhm.
I mean, my husband owns a plumbing company,
Mhm.
and if
Right.
you own a toilet,
Toilets back up at 2:00 in the morning.
you're his client. And at the same time, he can still go, okay, this is what I will do, how I will do it, when I will do it.
Right.
And then if there's a client
Mhm.
that does, for whom that doesn't work,
Mhm.
and there are other plumbers out there in the world, and unfortunately and sadly for us, they can go
Mhm.
use them.
Mhm.
So it's also understanding that self-respect applies to you as a business professional
Right.
as well. Like,
Mhm. Right. And
here
and sometimes
is
it's a money issue. I discovered when I told my clients, here are my office hours. I am more than happy to work evenings, weekends, and holidays, but it will cost you double. Almost never did they
brilliant.
ask me do that. And that was fine because,
Brilliant.
you're the plumber. He goes out at 2:00 in the morning, he's going to charge more. I mean,
Yeah,
and
that's
if I
right.
need that, then I'm gonna pay that, right? But I
That's
could
right.
also go, okay, I'm gonna reach down, turn the water off, and call you in the morning. And so yeah,
Right.
it's options, it's communicating, right? They can't read our
Yeah.
minds. They don't know that, hey, it's 7:30 p.m.
Right.
And so it's just a matter of being open and honest with folks and giving them respect and having respect yourself.
I have a friend who always says clear is kind.
Mhm.
And
Right.
if you are honest and
Mhm.
clear and communicative,
Mhm.
it's actually a kindness practice
Mhm.
because people don't know what they don't know.
Mhm. Right. And like you said, they might say, "Well, you're not for me." Okay.
Right.
They weren't for
Exactly.
you, and that's all right.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And, you just reminded me, I knew an artist who, when he really loved a work and a
Mhm.
piece and he didn't want to sell it,
Mhm.
he would just price it so
I was gonna
high
say it got very expensive.
that if somebody bought it, he was
Mhm.
like, all right.
Mhm.
So, you can
Mhm.
take that as a business
Right.
practice as
Right.
well.
Mhm. Right. You know, I mentioned in your bio, Primordial
Yeah.
Sound Meditation. What the heck is that?
Well, interestingly enough, when I was getting certified as a meditation instructor, I always knew meditation was a practice for me. I needed to do it because back in the day, I was COO of a large
Mhm.
chamber. It was
Mhm.
really busy,
Mhm.
and I needed to take a minute for myself and
Mhm.
understand what's
Mhm.
my intention before
Mhm.
I go into that world.
Mhm.
And then even when I was living in the hospital with my daughter,
Mhm.
I needed still that
Mhm.
minute
Mhm.
living in her room going, I'm about to see doctors. I
Mhm.
need to kind of assess,
Right. Mhm.
what am I all about? What are we all about? What do we need? What am I here for? Big picture,
Mhm.
small picture.
Mhm.
So I signed up for Primordial Sound Meditation
Mhm.
certification with the Chopra organization,
Mhm.
not even knowing, Deb, what it was. I thought, whatever. I
Mhm.
focused on the meditation. What I learned was it's a silent meditation.
Mhm.
Now, Deb, we have met a few times and you understand
oh
that
yeah,
silence.
I wrote down meditation with big question marks. Silent is not me. Mm-hmm.
It's not me either. And I had done yoga
Mhm.
where there was music and or a instructor led meditation. So I was shocked and horrified by the thought that I would be meditating for an extended period of time with no noise, not even my own voice.
Mm-hmm.
Primordial sound meditation is when you obtain
Mm-hmm.
a primordial sound. So back in the ancient
Mm.
times,
Right. Mm-hmm.
there were Vedic sages who
Mhm.
would go outside
Mm-hmm.
of their hut or their cave or wherever they were living, and they would listen to the air
Mm-hmm.
and they would record the sound.
Mm-hmm.
And they recorded and recorded and recorded.
Mhm.
And there are like 108 of these sounds.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you do primordial sounds, you learn what was the sound
Mm-hmm.
when you were born.
Ah.
So silently, you
Mhm.
repeat that sound.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea is that it brings you to a different level of consciousness
Mm-hmm.
because you and I, we are verbal.
Mm-hmm.
And so we think that we can think our way into and out of certain situations. It's just our
Right.
mind, we're
Mhm.
words, we're word
Mhm.
girls.
Mhm.
And words occupy a huge part of my day.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes you need to remove words
Mm-hmm.
to access a different part of your brain and your psyche.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like when people go, oh, I was driving and the best idea came to me, or I was in the shower.
Right.
Suddenly I knew what to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of in that vein.
Mm-hmm.
It's erasing all of your habits and all of your ingrained messaging and removing them for a certain period of time
Mm-hmm.
so that you can re-enter your life with
Mm-hmm.
more of a I don't want to use the word disassociated, but you understand, here I am, I'm this person in this body, and also there's something bigger at work.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right. Yeah, and yeah, I mean, for me, silence is not golden, right?
Yeah.
It might be totally silent, but my brain is going boogity 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 boogity.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And so what I've learned, that works for me at least, is it's okay to still have that. I mean, like I spent most of Sunday sitting on our deck reading a book. I didn't turn my computer on. There's a program on my, now that the thing I did do on my smartphone, I have a program that tells me what the birds are. And so, it's like, oh, that sounds new.
Yeah,
So,
Merlin.
and things like that. But yeah, and like before every podcast, I usually log on a couple minutes early and then I sit and I play solitaire on the computer. I don't check emails. It's like, okay, turn your brain off, so that then I can focus on my guest. And solitaire is just enough of a distraction where I kind of have to concentrate, but I'm not going, hey, oh yeah. And so that's what calms me down. And I think that's what so many people get caught up in is they don't even know how to find what calms them down. One of the things that is to me is, I will lay my head on one of my cats and she
Yes.
right? And now that's the nice thing about cats. They're very rhythmic. But then your brain can kind of think about that as opposed to, I have 15 things on my list today and oh my God, the price of gas just went up and what are we doing in Iran? And right?
Yeah. And sometimes if you're not quite ready for, that silent space, another thing to do is mindfulness, which is different from meditation.
Right.
Apparently, I think we have the same 4 thoughts running on a loop all day. Now, of course, there are other thoughts that accompany those 4 thoughts, but there are these like main 4 thoughts. So even if you say to yourself, what am I thinking right now? What's occupying my brain? What am I thinking about? And watch what your thoughts are. So you don't have to stop thinking, just observe the thoughts. Even that is helpful. I have said to myself, wow, I didn't even know that this conversation that happened 3 days ago is still living rent free, as they say, in my head. And
then
then
you're
I
usually
invite
thinking of I wish I would have said,
Right.
right?
Next time I'm gonna say,
Mhm.
and what happens is
Mhm.
that is also an invitation to why is that?
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
why is that
Mhm.
occupying space
Right.
in my
Mhm.
brain?
Mhm.
So it invites
Mhm.
some possible
Mhm.
contemplation. Or if you read this book, Conquest of Mind by Eknath
Mm.
Eastwood, which my
Mhm.
dad had his children
Mhm.
read, like when we
Mhm.
were, I don't know, early
Mhm.
20s, he says, just stop it.
Mhm. Mhm.
Which I thought is such good advice.
Mhm.
Stop it.
Mhm.
You know, we think like, let's get
Mhm.
to the heart of it. Sometimes
Mhm.
you're thinking something that isn't
Mhm.
serving you. Stop it.
Mhm. Right. Right. Especially if you're thinking I wish I would have said that. The next time this happens, well, it's probably not, and you can't go
Right.
back in time and re-say it.
Right.
One of my favorite TV programs is Big Bang Theory. Because you can just, I can watch it 900 times, and now, of course, I can say the lines with them. But one of the things is Sheldon never knows the quip to say at the right time, and so quite frequently he'll just say it when he remembers it, and people are like, "What?" We finished that conversation
That's so
yesterday.
funny.
But how many times do we say, well, I should have said,
Yeah.
and it could be good or bad, right? Oh my God, I should have said this positive, or ooh, I should have,
Mhm.
right? But yeah, you can't go back. So why keep thinking, I wish I would have?
It gets back to that thing that we were talking about
Mhm.
earlier in the conversation, our ego.
Mhm.
Our ego wants
Right.
maybe that person to
Mhm.
see us in a
Mhm.
certain way. And oh
Mhm.
my gosh, they didn't see us in
Mhm.
that certain way.
Mhm.
How can we
Mhm.
get there?
Right. The
What if
next
I
time I
say
see them,
this?
or Mhm.
Right. And
Right.
maybe that person
Mhm.
is never going to see you in
Mhm.
a certain way. It's
Right.
okay. You will
Mhm.
survive.
Mhm. Right. And we keep coming back to y- you are only what you think you are. Everybody
Yes.
else's opinion doesn't matter. Now, that's really easy to say.
I know.
you know. Um, but and maybe it's just the older we get, it is easier. To kind of realize, well, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And if they're wrong, if they're right, it doesn't matter. And it's like, okay, whatever. I mean, I had somebody get snippy with me yesterday, and for about 5 minutes, I was going to get snippy back. Now, I'm smart chick, and I did not get snippy back. Um,
Yes.
but then later on, I thought, maybe she didn't mean it that way.
Yeah.
And so I paused, right? And I realized she wasn't meaning to be snippy. I took it that way. And so, sometimes we need to pause and get our hands off that keyboard, put the phone down, walk out of the room, do whatever,
Yeah.
and realize, how did I interpret it? Because maybe I'm the one that made the mistake.
And it's really human to do this
Mm-hmm.
because we are pack animals,
Mm-hmm.
and so people's opinions and their respect for us and their like for us,
Mm-hmm.
it's important to us. We're wired that way. That's how we survive. So it's normal and nobody should beat themselves up for it. We're all made that way. That's why you and I have created, tools for people. That's why we talk about these things because it is human
Mm-hmm.
to care about what other people think about us. It's our way of staying in the pack or finding a pack,
Right.
finding survival. So it's 100% human. Also, it's not always, most of the time, in fact, it's not helpful. And that's why, we have to keep on figuring out how we can disassociate from the opinions of others in many instances.
Right. And the funny thing is, how many times are we caring about an opinion of somebody we're never going to see again? I mean, like the person in the store that looked at us and went, "You," or whatever. I was remembering somebody who, because I COVID memories pop up on Facebook, right? And COVID was a hard time for people. And I remember I had this one person, and clearly I'm still thinking about this, but who got snippy with me for wearing a mask. And I was like, really, what business is it of yours? And I really didn't care. But it was funny because, he said, I can't believe you're wearing a mask. And he accused me of being a Democrat, which I just thought was really funny. But I said, no, I'm a cancer patient. And he stopped and he said, I'm really sorry. And I said, well, think about that.
that's
The next time
beautiful.
you're going to be critical to somebody, and obviously never saw that man again, but it didn't bother me in the slightest because I knew I was never going to see him
Mhm.
again. So what the heck difference did it make if he thought I shouldn't wear a mask or not? But yeah, we do. We get caught up in oh my God, what does that lady at Starbucks? She made a face at us. Well, maybe she
Right.
had gas. I mean, we don't
Or
know.
maybe how she was having the worst day. Or guess
Yes.
what?
Yeah.
Here's a hard pill to swallow.
Right.
Maybe she didn't like you.
Right.
That
And
could be.
yeah, and so what?
Right. 100%.
Yeah.
Not everybody's gonna like you.
No,
We're
no.
just,
I
it's
mean, I was,
okay. Even
talking earlier about the doctor that I didn't like. I'm sure
right.
he's a very good doctor, but our personalities did not match. And when I have a doctor, I have them a lot. And so it was like, nope, this is just not going to work.
Right.
And so, yeah, it's, and yeah, we get so caught up in the, what if she doesn't like me? And that goes back to when we were in like third grade.
Isn't that the truth? It's the
Mhm.
truth. But I walk my dog in the neighborhood.
Mhm.
My dog will sometimes see a dog she doesn't like.
Yeah.
She likes a lot of them,
Mhm.
but every now and then,
Mhm.
she doesn't like one. And, I have to have the conversation with her.
Yes, you
You
cannot
know,
eat them.
that's right.
Right.
But, I said to one of my daughters when she
Mhm.
was dealing with somebody who didn't like her, I
Mhm.
said, listen, not everybody has to like you,
Mhm.
but people aren't allowed to be mean to you. And that's the
Yes.
line,
Mhm.
So,
Right. Yeah, and but we do. We get and I think it does come from when we were little.
oh, yeah,
We wanted people to like us.
sure. Sure.
And because we were definitely little pack animals as kids, right?
We're so primal when we're younger,
Yes.
and
Oh
we
yeah.
don't have our people yet, and we're trying to find our way. And,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
honestly, I think on some level it continues. I mean, I am at a place where I'm not obsessed with what people think
Mhm.
about me. And then all of a sudden it will rear its head.
Mhm.
And I'm like, oh,
Mhm.
shoot, I
Right.
still
Mhm.
have that caring
Mhm.
and I have to address it. And so it's not like we're finished. We don't
Mhm.
reach a
Right.
finish line where we're
Mhm.
like, okay,
Mhm.
now I'm the perfect
Right.
human.
Mhm.
I can go
Mhm.
through life
Mhm.
blithely,
Mhm.
not caring what
Mhm.
people think,
Right.
doing and
Mhm.
saying the right things.
Mhm.
We're going to keep
Mhm.
working until we're no longer
Right.
able.
Right.
Um,
Mhm.
so again,
Mhm.
I think these discussions are so
Mhm.
important because
Mhm.
they help us
Mhm.
to know that A, we're not alone. It's
Mhm.
so human to
Right.
care. And also
Mhm.
B, it's not
Mhm.
helpful to living
Right.
your fullest,
Right.
happiest
Mhm.
life.
Right. And I want to be clear, we're not talking about being selfish. We're not talking about being
Right.
narcissistic because it comes back to one of the words that I said at the start, and that's that little word joy, right?
Yes.
Because we want to bring joy to ourselves and to others. And sometimes that's
Yeah.
smiling at the person that might not have been smiled at all day,
Yes.
whatever it is, and so we are, oh my gosh, we've only got a couple minutes left, and I want to make sure that we give you plenty of time to talk about the services and programs that you have. So tell us a little bit more about, first of all, how do they find you? And we will have links in the show notes.
So
But then
how
what
do
are
they
the
find me?
services?
Okay, so the easy way is soulfulliving.com.
Mhm.
Soulful is spelled like the start of my last name. It's SolFul,
Mhm.
Iving.
Mhm.
Soulfulliving.com, or you can find the podcast spelled the same way, Soulful Connections.
Mhm.
And the what Soulful Living and Soulful Connections offer
Mhm.
are a community of people who are authentic
Mhm.
and want to be connected to talk about real things,
Mhm.
whether that real thing is their profession or how they find community.
Mhm.
We have the Canopy every other month, virtual networking, where we have usually a guest author who talks about a topic, and then we just kind of connect.
Mhm.
I have the podcast where real people like you, Deb, are telling their journey and how they arrive at a meaningful life. I do have some meditations that people can either download or just kind of an invitation to pause. And we have SolFul Living magazine. And that is also, it's digital and can be found online, where people are sharing the ways in which they live a meaningful, joyful, intentional life.
Mhm. I love it. And let's be honest, this is a cranky world right now.
Yeah.
For so many reasons.
Yes.
And so why not find reasons to bring joy back in? Even if it's just for yourself. We're not going to solve the problems of the world. We're never going to solve the problems of the world. But, we can be, and I have people, I actually have people who say, "You're always so happy." And they say it like it's a negative. And I'm like, yeah, and I tell them there are times where I am cranky as all get out. I
Right.
just don't let people see that, except for my husband. He gets the brunt of that.
I know my husband gets
Yeah,
it too.
I know. We love our men, right? But yeah, how are you putting yourself out there to the world? And I think that's what it all comes down to. But well, oh my gosh, Amanda, we have to do this again because I think more than anything, this is needed. People need to know how to get through life like this. Because as I said, it's horrible. It's stressful.
Yeah. And we're all in it together.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Nobody gets out. No matter where you think you go after this, I don't know. You might really be cranky in heaven. Or you might go the other way.
That's true. And you know what? We're all connected. And
Yes.
crankiness never solved anything, unfortunately. So, yeah, I agree with you.
Right. Well, Amanda, like I said, I will have you on again. But until then, do you have any final thoughts that you want to leave everyone with?
My only final thought is don't wait to be happy. Because like you were saying, Deb, it is a cranky world. And guess what? You solve one problem in your life and it's like whack-a-mole. Something else pops up, whether it is a health crisis or a money crisis or a relationship problem. We're always invited to grow. And that invitation oftentimes comes in the form of what is at least a challenge. So don't wait to be happy. Find happiness in the midst of chaos, in the midst of messiness. And that is my, I think, final thought. Even if right now you are in something that's so challenging, get a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, sit on your step or find a quiet space and just relish that drink. Find where your joy sits and live with it, even if it's a minute a day. I guess that's my final thought, Deb.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And like you said, a minute a day. We're not talking an hour, a minute, folks. And you'll find a minute becomes 2 minutes, maybe 5 minutes, but a minute. Well, I am Deb Creer. I've been having so much fun talking with Amanda Solar of SolFul Living. And until next time, everyone have a great day.
Tune in for our next program for even more trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. The Business Power Hour, hosted by Deb Creer, is proud to be part of the C-Suite Network.